Darren reviews Fast and Furious Supercharged, the first Rides That Made Me segment with Adam Bezark, and more on episode 319 of the Unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. Hello everybody, 'tis me, Tracy. Yes, time for another show. What are you nodding at?
Come on.
I'm trying to, but you're pulling faces.
No, I'm not.
You are. So yes, as you know, here's Lee. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
And we also have Darren as well. Hello, Darren.
What's up, Internet? Hello.
You seem to be in a funny mood, Lee.
No,
Just pulling faces at me. He doesn't like waffle, does he?
not at the beginning.
Why?
No one needs it.
Why? It's easing people in. It's welcoming them.
People know us by now, and if you don't, then you should.
No. I like to welcome people
Well, if you're
in.
welcoming people in, you need to talk about the elephant in the room, because there's only 3 of us currently.
Well, I hadn't got to that because of your funny faces.
It's just normal.
Well, it's true. So yes, just 3 of us tonight, as Lee's just said. Chris is what?
It's currently
Is-
on site at Universal
Yeah.
Orlando.
Oh, he's doing research. He's on a research trip then.
I think he's on holiday. I owe everyone an
Yeah.
apology because
Oh.
Chris messaged me about 3 hours ago asking to clarify something that we've talked about on the show numerous times, actually.
Oh, yes.
We were, I don't know whether we were led to believe, but I seem to have
just
put it
made
out
it
there
up.
that I'm sure I'd heard it that you could get pizza delivered to your hotel room if you were staying on site from Red Oven Pizza Bakery. According to Chris, having tried it today or yesterday, this is not the case. They didn't know anything about it.
I'm like, yeah, okay, go, come pick it up.
Was
Yeah.
it another pizza place?
There isn't another pizza place on site. It was definitely Red Oven. They probably heard it one of those internet rumory things that we just put out as gospel, and it wasn't.
Unless the guy who answered the phone, it was his turn to do a delivery and it really couldn't be bothered.
Delivery? No, mate, we don't do that. Sorry.
No.
No, I heard it on some podcast. Are you sure? No, definitely not.
Yeah.
The northern accent as well.
Yeah,
There you go. He definitely didn't want to do it then.
absolutely. That's too hot, mate.
Isn't that what you want your pizza?
No, I mean outside to go and deliver.
Oh.
Not walking all the way over to Sapphire Falls.
See, I'd do that, but by the time I got there to deliver it, I'd have eaten it.
That is a
Yeah.
problem
You know. I've eaten me
for
too.
them.
Well, yeah, you know. Okay, before it gets any sillier, let's start with some Producers Club birthdays. On September the 26th, we have Sherry Nash. We also have Matthew Tucker on September the 26th. So happy birthday, you two.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I like the way you did that there.
So do I see it.
Makes more sense to do it that way.
It does. And also we have more birthday twins.
Yeah.
We have the lovely Claire Goodwin and Kenneth Leeming. Also lovely. So happy birthday, you two.
Happy birthday!
Woo!
Happy birthday.
And then finally, a lonely birthday. No birthday twin. Oh. On October the 8th, it is the birthday of Jane Kotsonis. I hope I pronounced your name right.
We've had Jane on the show before.
I know.
She has
I know.
many children and takes them to Volcano Bay. She's a crazy woman.
She's a good mother.
Oh, no, she's not. Sorry, Jane, I didn't mean it to sound like that. But,
No, she's not.
I'll hit him for you later, Jane.
oh, my God. She was on our Volcano Bay roundtable, and that woman is a saint because 3 kids and
That's not
her
loads and loads of
husband
kids. It's only one more than us.
under the age of 4, I think. They took
Yeah.
to Volcano Bay. She did not have a very pleasant time. I think she was the one that lost her... Jane, remind me, if this is right, I'm sure she lost her bikini bottoms
Oh,
in the
right.
in the
wave pool.
Furious
And
River.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
That's actually a tie-in with SpongeBob that they do.
I've got to say, though, that is the best reason for not being able to get out of the water and look after your kids I've ever
I
heard.
think if I remember rightly, her husband grabbed them, otherwise she'd have literally been bottomless.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry to bring it up again,
What
Jane.
would you do in that situation? Yes. So, yes, anyway, happy birthday, Jane. Now, Lee's just embarrassed you. So, now, not only birthdays, we actually have wedding congratulations.
We do.
Yay!
Whoa.
Hang on, let me put my wedding hat on. Okay. Now, on September the 15th, our very own rumour gatherer, Alicia Stella, got married to the lovely Jennifer Mercer. So happy, and he's a happy birthday.
What do you say? Happy.
So congratulations
yes.
on your
Congrats.
nuptials, you two. We hope you have a long and happy and wonderful marriage.
Yes.
Indeed.
Congratulations, Alicia.
We need a champagne cork
Congrats.
pop noise
Oh,
there.
I should have that there.
Yes.
Congratulations
Yeah.
from all of us robots.
That's a nice
my
happy
God,
one.
I'm gonna say this right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to butt
good
in.
grief.
I was watching the trailer for Bumblebee today.
Ugh.
Oh my God, it actually looked good.
What?
I hate to say it, but they made like Soundwave was in it, and
Right.
he looks like he should do. Soundwave in the Michael Bay
Yeah.
films didn't. It was
No,
like
I
a
know, it
weird
was
satellite thing. They look like what they're supposed to look like, and I must admit, I kind of watched that trailer thinking, don't do it to me again, because it looked
He's
quite
also
good.
a huge John Cena fan, so that makes a big difference.
Oh, is that? I knew I recognised him somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, from the posters on your walls.
No. No, the ones on your desk for your birthday.
Not supposed to tell him we stalk.
He posted the picture.
I know.
But for all I hate the Transformers franchise, it actually looked all right. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll let you test that one out and let us know.
Put it this way, I haven't watched the last one, and I only got halfway through the one before that. Is there 5? You haven't seen any. You've only seen 3.
I've actually seen 3.
Yeah, I got halfway through 4, and that's as far as I could get.
So I'm thrice bitten and you're
4th.
5 bitten.
Yeah.
Just making
Darren,
words up now.
how far have you managed to suffer through them?
I think I saw the first one.
Oh,
Pretty
well
sure.
done.
Oh, well
You
done.
stopped. Yes.
Congratulations, sir.
Sensible.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to watch it again soon, I hate to say it. But there you go.
Fortunately, the largest child in the family makes me watch things.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, the largest child in the family. That would be you, my dear.
Because I had hope that they would be good.
Yes, then you had hope again. And then you had hope again. And then apparently, you had hope for half a film.
No, I was
again.
bored.
Oh my goodness, I can think of
And
better
I
things
couldn't
to
find
do if I'm
anything to put,
bored.
and I thought, you know what, I'll give it a yeah. And
I like the only good one, The Ride.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that
Yeah.
that what didn't follow the footsteps of the movies.
And it's only 5 minutes long.
Yeah. Indeed.
Anyway, let's move on. Let's head over to Seth for a little things and find out what's going on.
This is Seth Kaburski from the Unofficial Guides, and I'm ready to fall into the first look at all the little things that are new around the Universal Orlando Resort this autumn. The Halloween Horror Nights season is in full swing at Universal Studios Florida, and there are some fun little things all around the park, including a Stranger Things themed arcade with 1980s video games inside the Universal Studios store. This year, they've also added an unlimited Coca-Cola Freestyle cup only for frequent fear pass holders. But my favorite little thing associated with Halloween Horror Nights is that artist Shelby Denham is selling her Horror Nights icon tribute artwork inside the Williams of Hollywood prop shop this year. Go over and check out Shelby's art. One thing that won't be part of Universal Orlando this Halloween season is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm sorry to finally officially confirm that Rocky Horror will not be returning to the resort now that Cinemark has taken over the old AMC Cineplex. Incidentally, now that the theater has switched ownership, regular ticket prices are $11 with $5 tickets on Tuesdays, and there is no longer an IMAX upcharge option. A couple food notes from inside the parks. Dufftoberfest beer is back inside Springfield at Universal Studios Florida. You can get it at the Duff Brewery or Moe's Tavern for a limited time only. And over in Islands of Adventure, Universal has just started testing mobile food ordering through their free Universal Orlando smartphone app. So far, it's only testing at Burger Digs in Islands of Adventure's Jurassic Park. It works just the same as the mobile ordering in Walt Disney World's smartphone app. Pick your items from a menu and pay for them with a credit card. Right now, dining plans and annual pass discounts are not accepted. And for now, there's only the one location to try it out. Another good piece of news on the food front. I recently stayed at the Aventura Hotel, and I'm able to confirm that both the Urban Pantry food court in the lobby and the Bar 17 Bistro on the rooftop offer a 10% discount on food and alcohol to annual pass holders. Normally, annual pass holders only get a discount on food, and the website actually says that it's not valid on alcohol, but they are currently accepting it. So take advantage of that discount while you can. And finally, in very late breaking news, Universal Orlando has just reclassified the Royal Pacific Resort Hotel from a preferred hotel, which is the tier it shared with the Sapphire Falls, up to a premier hotel, which is the same classification as Portofino and Hard Rock. This makes sense because all of those hotels have Express Pass included in their room rate. There's no changes to the benefits at Royal Pacific with this reclassification. That'll do it for now. Until next time, I'm Seth Kabursky from the Unofficial Guide, Touring Plans, Orlando Weekly, Attractions Magazine, and I'm keeping an eye on all the little things at Universal Orlando for you.
I never understood why they declassified the Royal Pacific
No.
anyway, like especially putting it on the same level as Sapphire Falls. Like, Darren, you've stayed at both. I know you stayed in the closet under the stairs, but...
You keep picking at that wound, Lee.
it's just funny, isn't it? Sorry, I know it's not funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got you.
The difference is obviously big enough.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously...
In the
I haven't
common
been.
areas, for sure. And the restaurants and that kind of thing. Yeah, definitely. And, of course, like I said, the Unlimited Express makes a huge difference. And that's why you pay the extra for those rooms, really.
Yeah.
Mostly, yeah.
I mean, obviously, I haven't been to Sapphire Falls yet. But having been in and stayed in Royal Pacific, it feels upscale.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
I think it feels more upscale than Hard Rock does.
Yeah.
Because it's got that lovely tranquil island feel to it.
Yeah, it feels like a resort
It
hotel.
does. It feels like you've escaped.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't feel any less than the Hard Rock.
Now, it doesn't normally come with, the Bergen 5-star treatment. So.
Oh, in that case, then I'm not interested.
Don't expect those fresh fruits and chocolates. And
Well, they were fresh when they were delivered. Unfortunately, they weren't fresh when we got to them. 17 hours later.
It probably was.
Yeah.
What else? The mobile ordering thing, I think, is a good idea, and I'm surprised it's took them as long
Just
to
not red
start
oven.
trialing it.
yeah, and I think you can log in with your annual pass to the app, so I think it kind of makes sense that they should be incorporating that pretty soon.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would take an awful lot to implement that, and they're obviously trying it out at a place that's not necessarily too high a traffic.
Yeah, no, not at all. So.
Yeah, to get it down pat before they start rolling it out to more places.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Expect a lot of confused looks if you use it right now, though, I bet.
Probably, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, mobile app. You get then.
What?
I'd like to collect my food. Well, you have to order it first. I have. When? On my phone about half an hour ago. On your phone?
We don't do that here. That's Disney, sir.
Yeah. And it, like, to his teammate stood next to him. It's like, I've got another one of these. Thinks he's in Disney World again.
Yeah.
No, that's down the road. This is Universal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh, that's what it's like, the Shelby thing. We can personally vouch for Shelby's art because she did our Producers Club logo and it's awesome.
It is.
Yeah.
I like her stuff.
Yeah. She has a very specific style, but for Horror Night stuff, it works perfectly.
You know, I was looking for original artwork for the house.
Shelby.
Uh-huh. I like that idea.
It works. So I think the Icons one she did a couple of years ago was
Yes,
amazing.
I remember that, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and she does like the cast shirts and everything a lot for the team members.
Oh, yeah. The
stuff.
25-year cast shirt was fantastic.
Yeah, everybody wanted that.
Yeah, it was. Because we met with Jessie. Jessie had one, didn't she?
Yeah.
Ugh, I wanted to steal it off her.
Yeah.
I know. Right. Darren, then you're up.
Oh, Darren.
I would like to hear your review of Fast and Furious Supercharged, if you please.
The public has been waiting, Darren, with bated breath.
Amidst the fun of Horror Nights, I was able to take the 5 minutes it took to get through the queue and get on Fast and Furious the ride, and I'm officially family, I gotta say. Man, that ride is bad. The one saving grace was the Universal actor that did the second segment, like, was totally not, I don't think he was going along with the script at all.
Right.
He was kind of just like doing his own thing, and it was hilarious. And because it was like in the middle of Horror Nights, so I don't think that they were looking at him too close. But I don't know if that's how it normally goes or not. But that was really funny. Other than that, though, oh man, that thing is terrible.
Oh dear.
Just real bad. And everybody says the queue is good. Well, the queue's only good because of references to things that better rides that were there before, which is a really sad thing.
Yeah.
You think about it.
So it's basically just a big Easter egg hunt then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just walking back and forth. It's like being in a garage, basically like a car repair shop and just going back and forth between the cars.
Oh, joy.
That's the queue.
In fairness, what else was it going to be?
Well, yeah. I don't know. Just like getting in
what it was
cars
before.
and riding on a track. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be great. No, yeah. I don't know what else it could have been, but it's fine, but it would be okay if there was a good ride attached to it at the end, but there's
Yeah. And therein lies the problem.
Yeah, it's like they took Kong and they were like, "Hey, let's take out everything that's like good about this," and then okay, good, here we go. This is Fast and Furious.
Yeah, it's so sad.
The CGI is terrible. It's like, I'm sorry, I harp on the one for the Hogwarts Express all the time, like, because I think that looks really bad. I don't know if it's just my eyes. I just don't. That style of CGI just looks really cartoony to me. And they use that same style on this. And there's like one part where Vin Diesel like gets out of a car and like hops onto a helicopter. The perspective is all wrong, and he's huge. He's like the size of the helicopter.
Everyone's commented on that.
Dear.
Yeah. So it's just like ridiculous stuff like that. It's like clip art that they used basically. It's ridiculous. They must have had the cast for all of like a half hour, to do all the filming and then be done with it.
That's the thing. They're filming those films all the time. We've got another. What was the last one that came out? 8, or is 8 due out?
I've no idea.
I think 8 was the last one that came out. So there's another 2. So they must be still filming them all the time, surely.
Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know how that gets put out at the theme park and they're like okay with it. And for what it replaced, it's just crazy to me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think as we've said before, it's down to the higher ups. It makes sense. We know that's the biggest franchise we own. Let's put it in. Let's save a bit of money by porting what we have in Hollywood over. That's what you've got. Do the best you can with it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work.
Well, it kind of does. It did for Skull Island. I mean, we haven't ridden it, but for the most part, people say it's a decent ride.
What, Skull Island?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
because of the animatronics and stuff. If they had a giant animatronic Vin Diesel head at the end, like the same size as Kong.
I guess I'm just disappointed because when they do,
you haven't ridden it yet.
No,
fairness, but yeah.
For what I've heard and what I've seen, I'm what is it? Disappointment or something.
Coaster Radio, yes, coined the term anticipantment.
And I'm expecting to absolutely hate it. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the movies anymore,
I actually
but I've
really
already
want
seen
to see them because they do look like my type of film.
I say that. I remember enjoying the first one. I do remember that.
But they've totally changed from what they started off as.
Yeah.
But I feel if you're going to take something, a franchise that isn't finished, especially, make it good.
Yeah.
Take that ball, knock it out the park, because you're going to be stuck with that for at least another 5 years.
Oh, what is the shelf? It's something that's interesting. What is the shelf life on a theme park attraction?
The thing is, when you look at this, and you look at this as Darren described, like being in a garage, that to me looks, from just my opinion, that to me looks temporary. Like it could be ripped out really quickly. So it does make me wonder, have they done something that's easy and fast, furious to replace? Sorry. because they're not sure how it was going to be construed, if that's a word I mean, how the next couple of films are going to be.
True.
Or are they just
they can change?
Yeah,
they can change everything about it.
That's what I'm saying. They're looking. So it's just if something bigger and better comes along, they could have it stripped out in a couple of months. I don't know. I'm hoping that it's not as bad as I'm expecting. I know.
Well,
I couldn't really finish that sentence.
Yeah, the one thing that they can do, like you said, is update. They can update it if they need to. Like with new stars, new cars, that kind of thing. They can do all that. The way that it's set up, because you just got to change the CGI film, and then you just change the cars that are in the queue, and there you go.
See, I don't know where I read it. It was about a week, 10 days ago, in one of the forums that I kind of stalk. And somebody had written it, and they, like us, they love the parks. They love all the parks. They want them all to succeed. They want everything to be amazing, which is what we all really, really want. Not just as a consumer, but as fans of it as well. And what she said was she came out of Fast and Furious actually quite angry, because she felt like the consumer was basically, the Mickey was being taken out of them. It was kind of like, we'll just chuck this in and whatever, they're still going to come.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where we came from in the Producers Club roundtable last week. We were all... It was a lot more negative than I expected, but we all kind of agreed at the end that it wasn't from a place of being negative. It's because we want good things for the park. It's not come from a place of we want to crap all over what you're doing. It's we want it to be better because we want it to be as good as it can be. It comes from a place of love, not from a place of to be nasty.
So it was born of disappointment. Then
I wouldn't
the
say
reactions.
I'm disappointed with the parks overall.
No, I'm talking about that. I'm talking in particular Fast and Furious.
I mean, I know one person so far that said it was a good ride.
Yeah, bless him.
He loves everything, and I wish I was like that.
I love that about him. I don't know. I'm hoping there's a bigger picture that we don't know about. But. Like we've said before, you can't please all the people all the time.
No, of course you can't.
So
but you just at least want to please the majority.
Well, I know,
and that's the issue, isn't it?
When you look at the annual pass holder group, and any other, like if you look at the review page on, all the review sites, TripAdvisor, and all that, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible. It has a very, very bad ratio.
It is, especially like Darren. When was the last time you saw an attraction get slated like Fast and Furious? Not in my memory.
No, people thought The Simpsons was underwhelming when it came out, and that's just like, wow.
I like
it's way better. It's a masterpiece now. Well, yeah, in comparison, yeah.
I'm still
it was old ride technology that they just kind of retrofitted and did what they could with. But yeah, this is really bad.
Can't win them all.
In fairness, the next attraction they're kicking out looks like it's going to be amazing.
Well, exactly. And the thing is, sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. Thankfully, the majority of the time it's a hit.
And that's it.
And
this one, look, it's there, it's gone. You're going to have something to take that memory away next year, something that hopefully will be the entire opposite of what that is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Are we done?
Anything else you'd like to say, Darren?
No.
You can say what you told me if you want, and I'll just bleep it.
I believe I said it's terrible.
Do you know, I actually feel like that's the first time I've ever actually heard you say that word.
I'm actually thinking about it. I can't remember the last time I heard Darren swear.
I don't do it often, but it deserves it.
Oh, there you go. That'll be a T-shirt somewhere. Fast and Furious.
I'd actually buy that T-shirt.
The F stands for...
Oh, man.
Oh, is that family?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on and let's have a What Voodoo Do You Do?
Hi, this is Ted here for What Voodoo Do You Do? And the voodoo that I do currently is the Universal Edition Orange Sickle. It's a Bavarian cream-filled bar with orange icing on it, which has a very light orange flavor to it. It's not very strong. Between the orange and the icing, they mix very well together. It also does have some chocolate balls on it. There's only a few, but there's very light flavor chocolate. Even with the orange mixed, it's really good. Currently, it's my favorite donut. It's not a strong flavored donut. It's very light. So if you like orange creamsicle, I think you're really going to enjoy this donut. It's like I said, it's really good, and currently it's my favorite. If I go to the park, it's probably one of the ones I'm always going to wind up getting. Out of the dozen or so that I've already tried, this donut really does it for me. Even though it's in a bar, it's a pretty big donut, but it's still really good. So I would suggest next time you're in the park, go pick one up. I think you're really going to like it. Thank you.
I just want any of them at this point.
I've got to admit, that is one that I am going to... And I'm not sharing that one.
I want to know if this Halloween Horror Nights one, if they're literally going to stop it at the end of Horror Nights, because if they do,
Probably.
I will be gutted. Because it looked really,
why
really
didn't we
good.
Why didn't we get Rocky to bring us one home?
He could.
He could have done. He's home now.
Is he? Oh, yeah, he is. Oh,
Bugger. Right, so if you have had your very own voodoo donut, apart from me...
You'd have to have more than one.
Well, yes, but apart from me pretending that I still like you, because, you know, I really want one myself. Yes, Lee, tell us how to send them in.
Well, what you need to do is try every donut on the menu.
Twice, probably.
Yes. Kieran, I'm pretty sure if you're listening, you've not done far off it by the looks of it. And then ideally while
that's supposed to be.
Yeah. Ideally while you're there, pull your phone out of your pocket, record us a message letting us know, what you tried, but what your favourite one is. And then email that clip to us at podcast@UUOpodcast with the title WVDYD.
Question mark.
You don't have to put the question mark.
You do, because it's a
We'll know what it
question.
is. And we will play them on the show. And then next year, some point, the end of March, I think we decided next year, we will tally them all up and we will give the official voodoo that you all do.
And then when we go out next year, we will eat it
That's a good
live
idea.
on camera.
Cool.
Yeah.
All four of us.
Right. Let's go and hear from the girls at Mouse and Muggle.
Have you taken a stroll down Diagon Alley and visited Gringotts Bank? Grabbed a butterbeer and the 3 broomsticks after a long day touring Hogwarts Castle? No? Then what are you waiting for? Let our team of experts help make your dream a reality. At Mouse and Muggle Travel Company, we specialize in all things Universal Resort and promise to do our very best to put together a vacation package that fits your needs, wants, and budget. We specialize in Disney destinations as well. So if you're ready to get started planning your next family vacation, let Mouse and Muggle Travel Company do all the hard work for you. Just visit us at mouseandmuggle.com to fill out a no-obligation quote request or send an email to info@mouseandmuggle.com. And remember, whether you're a mouse or a muggle, Mouse and Muggle Travel Company can help make your next vacation simply magical.
Okay, so now it is time for the very first The Rides That Made Me. I'm quite excited about this. Now, I heard Lee recording this, and I heard him giggling like a schoolgirl, and because I'd been banished. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed it. So yes, brand new segment. Now, this came from the brains of Darren and Lee.
It did. I had the idea for a segment formulating, and Darren kind of came in and went, well, why don't we do it this way? I was like, ooh, actually. So it was a joint effort.
Yes, talk about teamwork.
Yeah.
See, you can play nice with others, Lee.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm not a complete control freak.
Yes, Lee. Remember, Darren, that's what we're supposed to say.
Yep, exactly.
So yes, let me hand over to Lee so he can introduce his guest and explain the segment.
Well, as our very first Rides That Made Me segment, and the idea behind this segment is we're going to invite people onto the podcast who have had some sort of input into Universal attractions. And for this one, I would like to welcome our very first guest, for our brand new segment. And that's creative director Adam Bezark, who was a show director and a director on many projects with Universal and Disney and many others. But for those that you who would be interested, his work at Universal includes some awesome attractions: the Ghostbusters Spooktacular, Jaws the Ride, T2 3D, Jurassic Park the Ride, The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, and of course my personal favourite, Men in Black Alien Attack. So Adam, thanks for taking the time to come on the show and be our first guinea pig.
Well, thank you. Squeak, squeak. I feel like a guinea pig. Very good. Thanks for having me, Lee.
You are welcome.
What a cool thing to do.
I am excited. I've been looking to do this segment for quite some time, and it's been formulating in my brain of how to get it into theme parks, and it's worked out. And you've had some input into this segment as well, Adam, because what I had it down as and what we're going to do is going to be slightly different. So I'm liking that already, that it's already changing.
Okay, good. Well, I think it's a cool thing to suggest. Go ahead. Yeah, please explain the plan.
Yeah, so the idea is we've asked Adam to come up with 3 theme park attractions that he feels have had a huge impact, not only on him as a person, but his career in the theme park industry.
Right. And I have to confess that this is maybe the single most difficult creative assignment I've ever been given. I've ever worked at. Trying to get your life down to 3 attractions is really, really hard because there's so many amazing things out there that influence you from the time you're a kid right up to the present moment. And I had about 3,000 that I wanted to talk about, but we've only got 6 hours for the podcast, right? So we had to kind of keep it to a minimum, and it was really tough. So I hope you'll forgive me. I cheated a little bit, and one of them is not a theme park, and one of them's more than one thing. And
well, we will get there. I'm sure we the listeners will forgive you. We know let's try. There's some rules already being bent, having seen your list already, but that's fine. So, Adam, what was the first attraction that you've put down on your list?
Right. So my first attraction really is a special experience that I had when I was a kid that shaped me hugely. It's the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry. And for anybody who's ever been to this museum, anybody who's grown up in Chicago or visited this museum, it is it's an extraordinary place, and it was absolutely sort of my first exposure to the idea of immersive theatrical experiences. It's so much more than a museum. It's a place that grabs you and takes you places. And it's also kind of rooted in the past of theme parks and World's Fairs. This is a place that's been open for 85 years.
Wow.
It opened in 1933, the year of the second Chicago World's Fair, and it's in a building that's the only building left over from the first Chicago World's Fair of 1893.
Whoa!
So in 1893, the Great World's Columbian Exposition, which every World's Fair nerd reveres, took up this giant piece of land on the south side of Chicago and had all these amazing buildings. If you look up the Columbian Exposition, it'll sort of blow your mind. And every one of those buildings was temporary. They were just made of sort of paper mache and horsehair and plaster, and they were not designed to last beyond the summer of the fair. In fact, it all burned down a few months after the fair was over. Oops. There was only one building that was meant to be permanent, and it was the building that held all of the artwork, all the fine art that was brought from around the world to Chicago to be displayed at the fair. And the countries that sent all this fine art said, we don't want you to put that in a fire-prone wooden building.
No.
We'd like you to build a permanent building for it. So they built this beautiful, heavy, building out of brick and proper materials, and it lasted, and it sat empty after the fair for 20 years. And then when the Second World's Fair came in 1933, they said, let's make a permanent museum out of this place, using in part some of the exhibits from the World's Fairs and other exhibits that were brought in from around the world. And it has become this sort of the harbinger of every modern museum since then, that went beyond just exhibits in glass cases and became about touching and experiencing and immersing yourselves in things. And there are these incredible exhibits that sort of, you can't believe how beautiful they were, considering some of them were constructed 80 years ago, including the coal mine exhibit that is a replica of a working coal mine. That's a whole experience you go through that's like a theme park experience.
Cool.
So you get into an elevator that's a fake elevator that pretends to drop down 600 feet under the earth. It's really just going down one floor, but it's going by the window that make it look like you're going farther. And then you get off and you get onto an underground mine train, and you're actually in a really believable mine with coal on the walls, and you get on this train that takes you through dark, spooky tunnels, and then you get off and you see huge working coal mine machines that make noise and scare the out of the kids. and it's just fascinating. And as a kid, you're riveted by this. You're both petrified and fascinated by it. And that became a super early influence for me. And I still think it's great to scare little kids. Everybody's afraid to do that, but I think that a little bit of fear is a great memory for a kid. It's like a thing that you learn to conquer your fears and to overcome that scary haunted house or that scary ride. And that was part of what I learned early on at the museum. There was also this amazing Paul Bunyan exhibit that was a thing where you went through and you saw little miniatures of people chopping down trees and stuff. But then you went into this log cabin, and in the log cabin was a giant 10-foot high head of Paul Bunyan looking in the window and talking to you in big, deep voices. Well, hi there, folks. I'm Paul Bunyan. But it was really cheap, sort of low rent animation, but it was probably the first animatronic figure I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And the floor was tilted as though he's picked up the whole log cabin and is looking at it, and you're like 60 feet off the ground looking in as he's talking to you. And that whole thing was terrifying to me. It would take me like 10 minutes to work up my nerve to go inside and face the terrifying Paul Bunyan as he would talk to me. And they have another area that is called Yesterday's Main Street. That's literally an old Victorian street. Again, this was done back in the 30s or 40s, but it's beautiful cobblestone streets and flickering gas lamps and replicas of old stores from old Chicago. That's kind of, a forerunner of Main Street at Disney. And so all of these things were years ahead of their time and totally formed sort of how I felt about immersive experiences. And I think about it all the time when we do museum stuff or when we do entertainment stuff. It's all the same. They knew that you could teach better by entertaining than just lecturing.
Yes,
right?
We have an open air museum up the road from us that sounds very similar. There's an actual coal mine that you go down, not very far because you don't go down an elevator, but you get to walk down into the shafts and they talk you through sort of the experience of what a miner would have gone through in those days. They turn the lights out and you'd have been working in a tiny little area of maybe 5 foot square, working by candlelight for 10 hours a day, picking coal off the wall. And I go in there every time we go because someone tells you that experience isn't as good as seeing it.
Really? Something that the world was just discovering when this museum came into being. And that was everything I knew about immersive experiences until I went to Disneyland, when I was much older, when I was like theme parks as a kid growing up in Chicago. I went to the museum. That was my Disneyland.
Yeah. But it sounds on a par with like something that for a small child you would have gone and really enjoyed it. It's not like stuffy museums, like you say, just wandering around looking at stuff in glass cases. It's something that you were actually getting to experience.
Right. This is the museum you beg your parents to take you to, not that you dread. And I was always pestering my folks to go to the museum. They go, "Oh, okay, fine, we'll go again." But it's something that's cool enough that parents like it too. It's vast. There's a whole hall of trains. There's a giant miniature train exhibit that's huge that you can get totally lost in. They have an entire submarine captured in World War II, an actual German submarine that they've turned into a walkthrough exhibit that's awesome. Fantastic. And some of this has been updated over the years, and a lot of it has been updated by folks in our industry. In fact, the couple of people who led their exhibit design came from theme parks to the museum and have sort of been responsible for the last 20 years or so of really cutting edge exhibits that they're doing now. So they have great exhibits on weather and science that are really high tech, really cool, immersive, and some of them have won Thea awards and other stuff like that. So they continue to be on the front lines of great immersive experience and sort of setting an example for how cool museums can be.
Yeah, like you say, that's way ahead of its time. You look at the museums now that theme park companies or themed entertainment companies are getting involved in a lot more. You only have to look at the Warner Brothers studio tour over here.
Mm-hmm. It's taken us years to get other museums to sort of get the clue that immersive experiences can be great for a museum. Museums were very resistant 20 years ago to anything. You'd go to them and say, "Hey, we're from the theme park business. Can we design an attraction for your museum?" And they go, "Get away, horrible fantasy peddlers." And what we realized after a while was not that they didn't need us, it's that we were just using the wrong vocabulary.
Yes.
So we'd say, no, I'm sorry. We didn't say, did you want a themed attraction in your museum? We said, what we really meant was, would you like an immersive theatrical experience that brings your information to life in a powerful way that connects with your visitors? And they'd say, oh, yes, we want that. We'd say, great. We'll go get those guys in the room. Sorry, we would never have those terrible theme park people in the room. And then, of course, it's the same people coming in. Because design is design, experience is experience. Yep. The difference, between a museum and a theme park is just the difference of doing additional research to make it authentic and meaningful and truthful as opposed to fantasy. But the theater design, the theatricality and the storytelling are all the same. And so it took us a while, but now museums are getting it and are using folks from our world more and more.
Awesome. Cool. Right, so let's move on to your next one. And Adam, I do feel that the more of these segments I do, this one will crop up more and more. What is your number 2?
Of course it will. Well, number 2 would have to be the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, right? So if you zoom forward from my little childhood growing up in Chicago, like I said, I didn't get to go to Disneyland as a little kid. I have very clear memories of going when I was 13 or so, and my folks took me to California on a spring trip to visit family, and I said, I want to go to this Disneyland thing. I don't know what it is, but I want to check it out. And we were there. That was back in the days when you spent 2 days at Disneyland. You stayed at the hotel, and you'd wander around at leisure. And being a dramatic little brat of a kid, I sort of had this very sort of theatrical way. I wanted to experience the park where I wanted to save something special for the end of each day. So on the end of the first day, we went in Pirates of the Caribbean, and that blew my mind because, I told you I was going to sneak in some of that. The Pirates blew my mind, and I can still vividly remember moments, the moment that you sort of come out of the tunnel and into the scene where the ship is bombarding the town, and having my little brain explode to think I'm seeing an entire bombardment scene. I was just sophisticated enough to know I'm inside, I'm in a set, but I'm looking at a full-size ship bombarding a full-size town. Holy crap. And that sort of blew me away and kept me all pumped up the first night. And then the second day, I saved the Haunted Mansion until the end because I thought that sounded cool. So I went through it, and I can vividly remember, this is 40 years ago, going through how my brain reacted to every single scene going through that ride. And I rivetingly remember every scene, how I experienced every scene in that ride for the first time, and how cleverly it built up its reveals, getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the ride goes along, and the scale just gets larger and larger. So I remember the stretching room and thinking how cool that was. I remember the sort of foreboding wait in the hallway with the lightning paintings that changed. And then I remember the sort of slow drift up the stairs going into the hallways. I remember the endless corridor with the candelabra in it. And then what I really remember is coming into the seance scene when my brain really started to leave my body. I remember specifically the sort of the 1, 2, 3 brilliance of how they played with my expectations. I come into the room, I hear the voice of a woman holding a seance. I see the back of a chair, so I assume there's somebody sitting in that chair, some kind of animatronic. Then I come around a little bit more, and there's nobody sitting in that chair, and that's surprising. And then I come around further, and the face is inside the crystal ball talking. And that was a beautiful surprise, but it was also a mind-blowing moment because, again, I was just sophisticated enough as a little kid who had been doing, magic in his backyard and puppetry and special effects and movie making and stop motion animation, all that nerdy stuff you do.
Cool.
I was just sophisticated enough to know that I had no idea what was going on. that I had no idea how that face got inside that crystal ball and was talking so realistically. It clearly wasn't an animatronic. What was it? And my mind was just sort of racing as I saw this thing. And then you go around the next corner and there's the big reveal of the ballroom, and my brain just left my body and my jaw hit the bottom of the dune buggy. And there's that whole giant panorama of the ghosts. And I remember the different ghosts in the room. And then I particularly remember the organist at the far end of the room and seeing that the puffs of steam were changing to little faces as they rose up out of the pipes, and thinking, my God, how is this possible? And again, I was just hip enough to know that I didn't know how that was being done. And later on, somebody said it was holograms, and I thought, no, I know what holograms are, and that's not holograms. What is that? And then it just kept building. You went into the attic and you were surrounded by stuff. And then the next huge moment is as you descend into the graveyard and all these things are happening around you. And holy crap, there's more of that talking face thing. There's 4 of them now and they're singing to me. And I know that's the same thing, but I don't know what it is. And then you're going past other characters that I did kind of understand that they were like animatronics that were sort of in clear plastic saran wrap clothing. I sort of understood that. But then we've got 2 more for you at the end. You come around the bend and now the ghosts are in the vehicle with you. And I sort of thought maybe I knew how that was done, kind of. But then you get off the vehicle and you're heading up and out. And there's one more little thing, a tiny little woman talking to you and saying, hurry back, hurry back. And I thought, oh my God, how's that done? I thought, okay, I've got to go on this thing again. And I ran around back to the gate to get in. But dumbass that I am, I had done this at the very end of the day, and they were closing the ride, and I couldn't go. They wouldn't let me on again, so I couldn't take a second look, and I had to go home to Chicago. So I'm sort of all stunned and heartbroken, and I can't stop thinking about this thing. And my dad and I got on the train and went around, got on the New Orleans station and went around the train. And in those days, the area where the Fantasyland Theater and now where Star Wars is going to be was a sort of an open pasture where there was nothing. And as the train passed through there, the narrator says, Walt Disney said in 1955 that Disneyland will never be completed as long as there's imagination left in the world. And here in back of Frontierland, there are plenty of wide open spaces for new ideas. And I went, that's it. I'll take that space. I'll put a ride there. And I started immediately designing some sort of a ride to put in that space. And I couldn't stop thinking about this. And for the next 5 years, for the next 30 years, I guess, afterwards, there was not a conversation. You could not start a conversation with me that I would not immediately somehow steer back to the Haunted Mansion. Had you been to Disneyland? Had you seen the Haunted Mansion? Let me tell you about the Haunted Mansion. Here's the thing. And it was another 4 years before I could get back there because I was a kid. I was in high school. And I finally got back there 4 years later when I was looking at colleges. And by this time, I had sort of reverse engineered and sort of tried to figure out what the effects were. This is long before the internet, long before you could go online and look any of this stuff up. I had written to Disney, how do you do this? And they said, we ain't telling you, kid, you figure it out. And I had to figure it out. And so I had an armload of theories, and I went through the mansion. That first time I raced to the mansion. This time I went there as soon as I got in and raced over, and I had like cameras and tape recorders and cassette deck recorder. And I immediately confirmed all the theories. That's it. Okay, I was right. That's it. Okay, I got it. And I was also excited that I had figured out how the effects were working. And then at one point, one of the cast members from the mansion sort of like saw me going through for the 18th time and sort of took pity on me. He said, "Come here, kid." And he took me with him to the little break room, which is on the side of the mansion. And in that break room is a map of the attraction,
awesome.
A layout, a ride layout. And it's the first time I'd ever seen a layout blueprint for a ride. And I sat there and I thought, I've got about 30 seconds to memorize this. And I just sat there and tried to soak up every turn. Okay, left turn, right turn. Okay, there's the ballroom. That's how the endless hallway is right behind the ballroom. Okay, that thing goes around that way. The seance is a circle. And I sort of memorized it. And to this day, I can draw the layout of the mansion. I've seen it many times since then, but I could still draw it because of that 30-second glimpse I got at that thing. I so obsessed was I with this. And in the years since then, I've thought, why this ride? Why does this ride grab so many people? Pirates too, but why do these two rides have such influence on people going into our industry? And damned if I know, but it's something about just the perfect blend of mystery, immersion, illusion. We talk about story all the time, but it's not really a story in the classical sense. There's not really a once upon a time beginning, middle, and end, but there is a beginning, middle, and end. There's a build to it. The story is how it reveals itself to you, how you start off with mystery and then it becomes bigger and bigger, and then the ghosts begin to materialize, and then they materialize big time. It's just an incredible exercise in slow, steady spectacle that builds up to a mind-blowing finish and then leaves you with a little kiss on the way out of a couple of little magical moments as you leave. And it's just sort of perfect in the way it's structured. And to this day, when we're designing rides and attractions, a lot of folks have moved on to much more aggressively paced attraction design, things that unfold super fast and everything's happening around you, lickety-split, 1,000 miles an hour. But I still think that a ride that has the restraint to take its time and to reveal itself thoughtfully and in pieces and stages can be much more impactful in the long run than one that just hits you with it and turns it up to 11 and never lets up. Not naming any names, but I think that's valuable to remember, and we come back to it all the time.
Yeah.
So that's a tiny piece of why the mansion was such a thing for me. But I don't know. What about you? You're fond of it as well.
I think it's testament to an attraction that's 50 years old next year that there are effects and sort of illusions in that attraction that still hold up today. I know they've gone in and added different effects into it now to bring it up to date, and it's something, we're a Universal podcast, and it's something I wish Universal did more was hang on to and update those classic attractions, because we're literally at ET now in Orlando. And they haven't really done anything for a while, but the Haunted Mansion is still today many, many people's favourite attraction. And like you say, it does take its time. It's quite a long attraction in theme park terms. Now attractions, very much what you've said. It's bang, it's get you in, get the story's fairly simple. It's all about flash bang, get you through it, get the adrenaline pumping, and get you out, and then get the next group of people in. Whereas the Mansion, Pirates as well, it's slow and slowly feeds you through the story. You get time to take it in, and I think in this day and age, I think I don't want to sort of cast aspersions on people. I think people's attention span isn't quite what it was 50 years ago. And I think that's why you see what theme park attractions are now, that people need to be entertained every second of wherever they are. And I think it's sad that we're not seeing as many themed dark rides nowadays as we used to. It is sad.
Well, I think the people still like them when you do them. We just don't necessarily think they will. And when you do it right, people still like them. Right?
Yeah, right. So your final one. It's a little bit of a cheaty one, a little bend the rules again. But as it's was one of my favourite attractions, I will let you off, Adam. So what was your number 3?
Okay, well, very good. So the third one is going to be Terminator 2 3D, which was an attraction that I was heavily involved in. And so in this case, it's not one that influenced me as someone else's work, but that was a huge influence because it was the first time I really got to do an attraction, a permanent attraction, sort of from the beginning to end, from first glimpse of an idea to opening day. And that was a huge deal for me. I had done other stuff like Illuminations and some other things before then. Illuminations is arguably more entertainment than attraction. Maybe this was the first time a sort of a brick and mortar attraction had let me sort of come in from the beginning. I'd done some others like the Ghostbusters and Jaws attractions were both rehabs where I was involved in sort of making them work better than they had originally, and that was a lot of fun. But you're not just given a blank sheet of paper.
Yes.
In the case of the Terminator show, it was kind of an amazing trip because I got to learn so much about how ideas are conceived and sold and nurtured in a company environment, and how they change over time to become what they need to be. And that was kind of amazing to watch T2. T2 basically stayed the idea that it was from the very first day until it opened, but a bunch of particulars changed along the way, and that made it in some mostly better. A few cases we had to give things up, but in most cases the changes improved it. It was cool. And it was fun also because we got to work with Jim Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that was super cool. And Stan Winston and Digital Domain and big film companies. So you learn a lot about film production. That was also super cool. But really it was kind of an exercise in, I don't know, pull an idea that makes enough sense that a big filmmaker will buy into it and will get excited about it. And the answer is, yeah, if you do it right, you can, and it's fun. So
we had Gary Goddard on a while back to talk about it. Actually, it was quite an interesting sort of what he told us about how the attraction came about. I always want to call it a ride, and it's not really a ride, is it?
Well, what's funny is everybody calls it a ride, even though it isn't, even though it's a theatrical show. Everyone talks about it as the T2 ride.
Yeah.
You don't go. The only traveling you do is about a half an inch straight down, right? But that's the only movement you do. But it still feels like a ride because the film takes you on the journey and goes through. And I'm sure Gary told you some great stories about it. And I worked for Gary at the time. That was Gary had this company, Landmark Entertainment Group, that was a very close vendor to Universal, and we did a lot of the concept work for Universal's parks in the 90s, particularly in early 2000s. And I was there from 1990 to 95 as kind of young, up and coming creative guy, and I was the one that would get a lot of the assignments for these Universal projects. They'd sort of just chuck them at me to work on. So the Ghostbusters thing, actually Landmark had originally built the Ghostbusters show for the ride show, for the opening of Universal, and it was technically very impressive, but the show itself could have been improved. And so I got hired shortly after that ride opened, and one of the first things they did was throw it at me and say, okay, here, work on this. And we came up with a whole new sort of story and concept that was an important lesson. I know we're veering off. See, I'm totally going to sneak other attractions in here. It was kind of veering off topic, but one of the lessons that I think the industry learned from that I certainly learned from the Ghostbusters experience was the first version of Ghostbusters was pretty much a literal, semi-literal recreation of the end of the first Ghostbusters movie, sort of line for line, gag for gag. But the audience knows I'm not looking at Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd. I'm looking at a theme park actor who's lip syncing of somebody else's voice. So what you learned is that a show that exactly recreates a movie is always peril. You become like a book report. We talk about book report rides. If you're just trying to recreate the moments from a movie, you'll always lose because you'll never be able to capture the energy of the original film. And that's when we realized for the first time, if you're going to make a movie attraction, it shouldn't be a repeat of the movie. It should be an extension of the movie. It should be a legitimate sequel or a new story in the world of the movie. And that's fun for people. You get to have some of the images and catchphrases and things that you know from the original movie, but you go in a new direction and see new stuff. And so that Ghostbusters show the new version became the Ghostbusters have fallen on hard times. And now they've opened a franchise office in Orlando, and they're trying to sell home ghostbusting kits. And you're there for a sort of a cheesy sales pitch for ghostbusting, and that was fun. And it was an opportunity for a new kind of comedy, but it still builds up to the local fraud guy who comes by and doesn't believe they're real and tries to shut the Ghostbusters down and turns off all their machines, but whoops, he lets the ghost loose, and then the Ghostbusters have to come and save the day. So it's structurally similar to a Ghostbusters story, but it's a new version and with new jokes and things. And so knowing that made it more interesting to take on something like Terminator. So the origin of this, and again, stop me if I'm repeating anything that Gary.
No, it's cool.
The origin of the project was actually started at Universal Hollywood, where they had a theater that had been the screen test theater for many years, where they'd pick people out of the audience and have them do scenes from a made-up movie and then play it back for you. And I think they had a Star Trek movie screen test show going at the time, and they knew that the license for Star Trek was going to expire, and they needed to put a new show in that theater. And they said, we think we can get the rights to Terminator 2, which had just come out and was a cool movie, and we think we can get the rights to that. So could you guys do a indoor stunt show in that theater, and do a stunt show, and maybe there's people hanging from a helicopter, and there's some explosions and stuff. And I got handed this thing to work on, and they said, "Sorry, all right, so come back to us with some ideas." And I sat for like 2 weeks trying to think, what the hell? I thought, no, we're sort of going in the wrong direction. The Terminator movies, both of them at that point, Terminator and T2, are road movies. They're about extended chase sequences where you're traveling through the future or the past or the present, and with a horrible killer robot on your tail, and it's about the suspense of that. And second, the new Terminator movie was about the then new technology of morphing, where you had the Robert Patrick, the T-1000, who could morph into anything he wanted to, and that was cutting edge computer graphics at the time. And I didn't know how to do either of those things on a stage. How do you do a chase scene, a street chase, a highway chase on a screen, on a stage? And how do you do morphing? And I had these horrible nightmare visions of like some guy in a cheap silver suit with rubber arms that were stretching, and just thinking, oh, this is going to be awful. And in kind of desperation, like the night before we were supposed to take our ideas to Universal, I started remembering a couple of things. We had been talking about 3D movies a couple of times before that at Landmark, and we were certainly interested in them. And I remembered that Disney had done some very early work in computer graphics with 3D, with the Magic Journeys movie back in the 80s. Yes. And that they had discovered, the principle that this is kind of revolutionary to think about, that if you take a computer and you have it render 2 images, one for a left eye and one for a right eye, and project it on a screen, you could get a cool computer graphic image that's in 3D. And oh, that's cool. You could do the character in 3D. And what if you could do maybe if you could have live actors in front of the screen, and then when he needed to stretch, he could be in film, and when he or morph, and then when he needed to be on stage, he could be live on stage. And then I remembered this show in Hungary that was a 1960s thing called the Laterna Magica that is still there, I think, where they have actors who pop in and out of a movie screen. The screen is cut into strips, and people would jump in and out of the screen in perfect synchronization with the film. And I thought, oh, that'd be cool. I wonder if you could do it in 3D, where you have like the actors jumping in and out in sync with what's happening on film. So again, when the T-1000 needs to be live, he's on stage, then he runs into the screen and morphs, and then he comes back out as something else. And maybe you could do it with other tricks and have things popping in and out. And so I took that to Gary. He said, let's try it. And we went back to Universal, and they said, oh, okay, try that. And we started jamming on that, and all kinds of cool ideas started flowing out of that. The idea of, if you sort of took the extension of some of these ideas from a T-1000, what's cooler than a T-1000? Oh, how about a T-1 billion? Yes. Super giant. What if you took 1,000 T-1000s and mushed them all together and made a T-1 million? And originally there was a moment where you'd literally have that. You'd have you'd get to the point at the end of their thing where you were at Skynet, and you'd see not one T-1000, but like 1,000 of them pop up all around you, and then Terminator was going to like melt them all together, and then they'd realize, ooh, that was a bad idea, because they'd melt all together to form a super giant T-1000 that would come at you. And yeah, right. I think there's still storyboards of that we've got stashed away somewhere. But we sort of chugged along and came up with all these crazy ideas. And then Universal said, all right, well, we're going to bring Cameron in to look at this. And we went,
oh my
what?
God.
We're going to what? And Gary and I were kind of freaking out. And we went and set up the storyboards and by the way, people who were involved in this are people who are now sort of other legends in the industry. Like, I don't know if you know the names, like Greg Pro, who's a fantastic concept illustrator, or Luke Mayrand, who was our production designer. He now is over at Disney, and he's in charge of Shanghai Disneyland now. Cool. So we got to work together on the Pirates ride. He was in charge of that. But the young dummies got to present this to Jim Cameron, and we're all terrified. But he comes in, and we'd heard he's like such a tough, yelling, screaming guy, but he's totally cool, and he's like a big nerd. And we're pitching the idea to him, and he starts getting into it, and he's almost kind of racing ahead and go, yeah, and there's the big thing, and there's the money shot. I go, no, that's not the money shot. Wait, hang on. Here's the money shot. Here's the even bigger thing. He goes, whoa, that's cool. And he said, this is great. You totally got you understand the characters, you understand the universe, you've extended it in a really cool way. This is awesome. Yeah, we've been on this. This would be fun. And Gary and I left that meeting floating, and I don't think I've had a better day in my entire career than the day that a guy like Jim Cameron sort of blesses your idea. And we went and had ice cream. Right, that was like the coolest moment. Right, and it's all kind of downhill from there, because then after that you have to actually make the thing, and there's a million compromises. But in that one magic moment, you're cool because you just pitched and sold Jim Cameron on a cool idea. And then over the next several years, we got to work with him. We got to work with the Universal team. We got to learn how an attraction is conceived. We were actually off the ride for a while. Somewhere in the middle of that, I left Landmark and went off on my own, but I still got hired back in and worked with Universal to develop it. And all along the way, everything was a learning experience. Got to work at Digital Domain and see how they produce movies, got to go out on the set and while they were shooting and be sort of an information source for Jim. He'd say, wait, where's that thing coming from? Okay, then we got to have it over there, and watch how he thought. It was kind of amazing every step of the way, and kind of the ultimate satisfaction, obviously, is at the very end when it's getting ready to get up and running. And you've been promising now for something like 4 years that this thing is going to be cool, but you don't really know until you see it all together. And when we finally got it all running in the theater in Florida, because by now it had moved from Hollywood to Florida. And we finally got it up in the theater in Florida for the first time, when I finally saw actors up in front of the movie, in front of the screen with sound effects and lighting. Sort of my knees kind of buckled out from under me, and I kind of collapsed in the theater, and I thought, I'm not a fraud. It actually works. It's cool. It actually is really cool. And I was kind of, I had to hide between the seats because I started crying because like, I actually made something. This is going to be cool. And it was only like 2 weeks before we opened. It was the first time I could really see it's going to be cool. And there were a lot of folks at Universal who were super nervous about it and were afraid it wasn't going to work. And then when we finally let an audience in for the first time to see it and they flipped out, that's another really super gratifying moment when you go, oh, wow, we made something cool. Yay. And it was really fun.
I mean, as a fan of it, I'd say it was my favorite. I know it's more than a 3D attraction, but it was my favorite 3D attraction in Orlando. Just the amalgamation of all the pieces. It's not just, you look at some of the stuff that's still about now, like Shrek and Despicable Me, they're fine, but they're nothing special. We commented on Shrek recently that you could sit at home and watch that on Blu-ray, but T2 3D, you had the actual animatronic, the T80s, I want to say, at the side. Then the obviously
T70s, I think they were.
The actors themselves interacting with each other and the screen. Then the 3D screen itself is obviously the big wraparound screen as well. The seat drop, just everything created just an amazing attraction that I was incredibly sad to see it go, actually.
Well, me too.
And the 3D as well. It seems to be they're replacing a lot of the attractions with this new 4K digital projection 3D, and I don't think it's as good as the old film projection.
That's a really interesting standard. I don't know. I'd have to sort of look at them side by side and see. I think there's advantages to both the digital stuff and there's new glasses technology that's cleaner, and you get less ghosting and less double images and stuff.
Do, but it doesn't come out at you like it used to.
Well, that's probably because we were pushing it too far.
But that was cool. They
kept
like
telling
it was
us, make it come out farther, make it come out farther. And we actually did it to the point where it broke 3D in a couple of places.
Okay.
You just couldn't resolve the image. But okay, you guys want it farther, we'll bring it out. So, but because Extreme is good. I mean, if you're going to do 3D, you should be conscious of the Ds, right? You should really feel it, the depth of it. Otherwise, why bother? I think that was something that was really exciting we talked about it a lot before Cameron got involved, but one of the things I was sort of excited about was it was clear just from watching his movies, but even before that he was a director waiting for 3D to come to him, because he thinks three-dimensionally. His films are super full of really interesting perspective and parallax movement and things that emphasize the depth of scenes. So if he just had shot any of his movies like T2 or Titanic in 3D, they would have been super dimensional anyway, because that's just how he thinks. So he was ready to jump into 3D when he got the chance. I think it was his, and then he got all hooked on it, and he does everything. Like, he's Mr. 3D. Right? He can't stop.
I mean, it's interesting that you mention about going in and changing the Ghostbusters attraction to not be a recreation of the film, and then going in with T2 3D being an extension of T2 the film. That's something that Universal still do to this day. All their attractions based on IPs aren't just like Disney seem to do it with a lot of their sort of Fantasyland dark rides, the kind of Cliff Notes versions of The Little Mermaid or Winnie the Pooh, whereas Universal, Universal try to tell an extension of the story. I think that the biggest one that we've seen recently is what they've done with Escape from Gringotts, where they're actually telling a story that could take place in the middle of the films that you already know. Right, that the Gringotts is a sort of a variation on a theme. It's not a new story in the world. It's what's going on somewhere else at the same time that the story is taking place. Yeah, that's a pretty clever thing to try and do. It's not easy. It's hard to make that work, but it's pretty cool to think about it. It's a little bit like Wicked, the story of the witches of Wizard of Oz, where you're seeing what's happening to the witch while Dorothy's off having her adventures. Here's what the witch is going through, and you become sympathetic to the witch. That's pretty cool if you can pull that off. Absolutely. Right? So that's that's another fair, cool way to create attractions that don't just parrot the original, but that add something to what you know about it and make it worth coming to see. Definitely. Right. Well, Adam, that's been absolutely brilliant. It's been really interesting listening to you talk about just managing to pick 3 out of the 3,000 attractions that you could have picked, and still get your little nods to some of them in there. I think, like you've already mentioned, Haunted Mansion. I think we're probably going to hear that a lot when I interview some other people. Pirates, I think, is probably going to be another one in there as well. And I hope some people cite Spider-Man too, because that was fun to work on. I think they probably will. And other things that what's neat is when people are saying something you worked on inspired them. That's cool. Then you're paying it forward a little bit. But there are hundreds of others, and you're going to get some really interesting ones as you talk to people on this series. I'm going to be listening to hear what everybody talks about. Cool. So, Adam, of course, we'd like people to keep an eye on you now people know who you are, if they didn't before. So if people want to keep an eye out and find out what Adam Bezark's up to in your company and any sort of future projects you've got coming up, where should people go to find you? Oh, you can find our website at bezark.com, bezark.com, and on Facebook and periodically on Twitter. We're about our social media, but we're out there periodically. And we also are very sort of active participants in the TEA. And so if anybody is in the industry and wants to come to TEA events, it's easy to sort of say hi. We're often at IAPA. I'll be speaking at the SATE
a conference in China this year, and kind of various sundry folk places around the world. And you'll find us in North America, in Asia, in the Middle East, maybe in Europe.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. Well, Lee, thank you for having me involved in this. This is a really fun conversation and really made me think a lot about, the stuff that sort of brings you to where you are today. What makes you the character that you are at any given moment is completely a product of the experiences you've had up to now.
Absolutely.
And you really got me thinking about it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed that. It was enlightening and fun.
Adam was awesome.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
I really enjoyed talking to him, and I can't wait to get more of these under our belt because they're interesting. It just shed light on the people that create the attractions that we like. Love.
Yes. Yes, nice to see the influences or hear the influences, I should say.
And Adam was as excited to record it as I was, and that was the best thing about it. He said it made him look at his career and himself in a different light.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says he's never been asked to look at the things that he's experienced and how they've affected him as a person before, and he said it was an enlightening experience.
So basically, you put him on the spot and made him explain himself.
Basically.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah.
And that's what's really cool about it. The getting that kind of input from the creative people, I think kind of helps the future and aspiring creative people that are hopefully listening to this show and listening to this segment. To really look at the rides and things that they're experiencing now and how they can use that to shape and mold themselves into, the next awesome attractions that we can enjoy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm excited. I'm even more excited to do more of these
stuff. Now. Oh, yes. Well, I guess that's going to do it then. It's been a good show, actually.
Considering there's not a lot going on at the moment.
There isn't. So yeah, I guess that's just going to do it. Just time to wrap up the show. So, for Darren, Lee, Seth, Michelle and Robin at Mouse and Muggle, Ted and Adam, this has been the Unofficial Universal Orlando podcast.
Cut. Print. That's a wrap for another episode of the Unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. Never miss a show by subscribing on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review while you're there. Not an Apple user? You can listen on Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, or your podcatcher of choice. Email us any questions or comments to podcast@uuopodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Instagram, and Pinterest. Just search UUO Podcast. Keep up with the latest news, rumors, and updates on our blog at uuopodcast.com. Thanks for listening. See you next week.